Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Independent Film Festival Boston. My name is Brian Tam. I'm the Executive Director here at IFFBoston, and I'm so glad to welcome you here to this panel discussion talking about the state of Boston Art House cinemas. It takes a lot of people to make the festival happen, so I want to make sure to thank all of our sponsors, especially WBUR, all of our staff, our volunteers, our members, our donors, and everyone who's helped support the festival over the last year. We appreciate it so much. Usually at this point, we thank our venues, and the theme of our campaign this year is Wish We Were Here, because normally we would be at the Somerville, the Brattle, and the Coolidge, but unfortunately we are not quite there yet, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to bring the folks that run those theaters to talk a little bit about what's been going on and what the future looks like. So we've got some special guests that I'm going to bring up. I'll bring them up in order that they happen at the festival normally. So I'm going to start with the Somerville and bring on Ian Judge.
Hello.
And from the Brattle, Ned Hinkle. And from the Coolidge, Katherine Tallman.
Hi, everyone.
And to moderate this discussion, I want to bring out Sean Burns, who's a Boston film critic, writer for WBUR's The Artery, and someone who I can speak from personal experience is a big lover of watching films in cinemas. So we're looking forward to this. And so, Sean, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Now, first of all, it's great to see everybody. I miss you guys.
Same.
I just went on my coffee table and found I have my Brattle schedule still from last spring and the Marty After Midnight Coolidge program. So everything ended abruptly, and I don't keep a very neat house, I guess. So I don't know if you want to go around, just tell me how I'm happy that we're all still open after losing, or not open, but solvent after losing the Icon and the ArcLight in the past month. So how have you been doing it? Who wants to go first?
Community, community, community.
Yeah, exactly the same response for us.
Well, we're privately owned, so only by the
I feel for you.
Only by the grace of the owners do I even remotely remain associated with the theaters and them remotely having a chance. You know, it's we all have different challenges, but yeah, we're all still standing right now, virtually, but it's great to see everybody.
So I don't know if you want to go back to the dark days of last March when everyone was sort of scrambling, but how did you guys come on board with the virtual screenings and the programs you started to do? Just, if you could tell everyone a little bit about how that came about. Maybe Kathy, you guys went first, right? The Coolidge had the first virtual screening.
I think so, but the Brattle was probably soon after. I mean, you know, I've gotten so many interview questions from, early on about, oh, how did the Coolidge just pivoted? And it's like, we had no idea what we were going to do. I mean, we just we got a request from a distributor early on, hey, if we send you this film file, can you show it? And we said, sure, I guess so. And then it started snowballing from there. And at the beginning, we were basically just providing a portal to each one of those independent distributors' own portals. So it wasn't really our control, and our patrons were giving those distributors their email information, which we weren't thrilled about. And there also wasn't an opportunity for anyone to donate, but primarily it was a really tough user experience. So one of the things we had to first do, which I'm sure Ned did too, was turn our great film people into a tech help desk. And then as it like pretty quickly, we began to work with another theater to centralize the distribution of those independent films. And so that has streamlined the user experience and helped a lot.
Yeah, we found ourselves pivoting. I mean, I think that one of the benefits of any independent cinema is that you're used to pivoting, right? We've all done that for whatever reason, and this was brought on by necessity for sure, but a cat fight is happening next to me. But anyways, drama off screen. So pivoting, is in our blood, and so it was easy to do. We did wait a little while to sign on to the virtual screening room type films, and instead we started doing, basically brought our repertory programs online because we already had a number of programs scheduled. So we took the concepts for those programs and turned them into basically streaming suggestions. We were looking at what was playing on readily available websites and sending people in those directions. And then eventually we started to think, this is not monetized at all for us, and we're giving Amazon money in theory, so we should probably figure out how to show these films ourselves and look to the Coolidge and other folks who've been doing it for a model.
Now, how does that business-wise? I mean, it's obviously not like filling a house. Has it been?
Ian?
Yeah, well, we tried some, but we don't quite have the infrastructure that you folks have with more member-based stuff. And it was, for us, minimally profitable. I think we did it really just to maintain a contact with our customers, to let them know that we aren't being replaced by a parking lot. And we also did the popcorn pop-ups, and that was really successful because we are really essentially still a neighborhood theater, both of our theaters, and so that maintained the connection. And a lot of customers were just grateful to pop by. It's not that they really needed a 20-gallon bag of popcorn, but they wanted to show their support. And it's great that you can donate to nonprofits, but obviously we don't solicit donations, but we certainly sell popcorn. So it's to us, it was just about maintaining as much contact with the public as we could at the time. And I don't think there's no way it was going to replace our business model. That's for sure.
No, I can assure you too, as you probably know, and Ned would say, the virtual screenings have been a good way to stay in touch with our audience, and also to really show, like, if you looked at what we were offering, our programming, our special programming, our discussions, we look a whole lot the same as we did when we were in the house. But in terms of financial return, we've shown 180 films. We've grossed maybe, $180,000, which we would have done that last December. Right. So it's almost exclusively contact. I will say, though, that when we could add the donations, we've had about an 18% return on donations. So that's been a big plus. It's just good to connect with people.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do what we normally do, so we have to figure out a way to sort of replicate it somehow. But yeah, I mean, echoing the talk of, the virtual cinema has been absolutely amazing for that community connection, but we haven't made very much money. The Brattles, as an example, we've been in the top 10 independent theaters for certain streaming titles, and it's been 70 tickets.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So it's and it is totally community based. Like, obviously we have run some films and that the Coolidge has run at the same time, and I think it's just been our audiences going to we've both been running films that dozens of other cinemas across or all of three of us, because Ian, when you guys were doing it, have run films that dozens of theaters across the country are playing at the same time in exactly the same way. So it really is about how dedicated your members are, as well as the quality of the films, which I think was pretty good overall.
Yeah, I would try. I know I was trying to do it one at a time. Like I did a Brattle last time, so I'll do a Coolidge one this time. You know? Trying to be fair here.
Yeah.
So, Kathy, I was wondering if you could tell me about the Coolidge education program, because that was kind of a fun thing to keep everybody connected. I've enjoyed those classes.
And we've enjoyed you as well. So we have had over 80 film seminars, and when we're open, we couldn't really host those very often. We would maybe have one a month because we didn't have the room for it. We would have to carve out an hour from one of the small screens, and it was hard to fit that in. So, and those were always sold out. So that's one thing about this virtual world that we might actually consider continuing, because we were able to hold those. We had them every Thursday, so people got used to the pattern. Because there was no travel involved, we were able to attract national critics to lead those seminars. Same thing with like our Science on Screen. We were able to get big names because people were calling in from all over the world. So that has been great. I mean, the standing line from the beginning was, the first one that we did was Rear Window, which was pretty appropriate. And we had 200 people call into that, including someone from Peru. So that was pretty amazing. It hasn't been quite like that since then, but that has been a better way to engage. And when you listen to those, that's when you really have a bit more sense of being at the theater and having community, because you have the interchange, but an exchange of conversation with people.
Yeah, that's sort of what I missed most, like the shooting the breeze afterwards. And I know, Ned, your podcast is great for that. I feel like I see you every week. I don't know if you want to tell everyone about what you guys have been doing with the Brattle podcast.
Oh, sure. I mean, we had been talking about having a podcast, honestly, it's on and off for years. And we had just, I think within, in like January or February, we had just sat down and mapped out this whole plan about how we were going to workshop this thing over the summer, and we were going to, figure out the structure and how everything was going to work, and bring in an intern to help us out. And then March happened, and then, sort of like, why don't we just do this? We have a board member who volunteered to basically be our engineer / producer and co-host, Ian Brownell, and so that's really worked out for us in terms of just a way to keep connected, and like you say, keep the conversation going, which is always something that we look to our audiences to do. I think all of us look to our audiences to do that when we're just like doing real screenings and chatting about movies afterwards. It's just an extension of that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know if you can take us behind the scenes, but so the Shuttered venue operator grant, how have you guys been doing with these programs? Like I know the PPP loans, and there was some drama with the SVOG. The portal stuff.
Putting it through the Small Business Administration was a really poor choice. They should have gone through the banks. I'm really grateful that we're part of NATO, that we pay our dues there, because they are so helpful with that. And sometimes you think, what is the purpose of joining an organization like that? Because they're really, they're AMCs and the Regals are pushing it, but no, they were
amazing.
They were, and it only benefits smaller businesses and smaller theaters. So without them, I think we would be lost. And I think, they show you how many people have applied once you're in there. And you worry, geez, there's 35,000 museums. Are we going to be, left in the dust? And then you see, only 300 applied. And maybe because they don't have a NATO, I don't know. But, it's everybody's got their fingers crossed. And every day you check your email saying, is this the day they're going to tell us, okay, you're getting what you asked for. It's not like our existence is riding on it, but it's an awful lot of support, and
it's a tremendous amount of support. I think it's safe to say that program wouldn't exist without NATO. I mean, they pushed and pushed and pushed to get it through in the first place, and then they really guided the SBA in how to implement it, and then they helped the SBA fix the initial implementation. And I mean, I don't know how it was for you guys, but I literally said, and I literally with would literally think this. I would rather run the Boston Marathon in my current shape than do that SVOG application again. That was one of the hardest things to get done. It was just a constant stream of, preliminary checklist. I have documents like all over the place that were, never asked for, which I assume might be asked for in an audit. The whole process was completely nerve-wracking once you finally got in. And oh, by the way, Sean, you had to also acquire about 10 different secret documents before you could ever even get into the portal. One of my best things being that I had to have a notarized letter, and the notarized letter said, I hereby attest to the fact that everything that's in my account is accurate, but I couldn't get in the account without the notarized letter. So I finally just decided, you know what? I'm just going to lie. I'm just going to say everything is fine. And I got the notarized letter, and I got in and I changed all the information. So it's just things like that along the way where you were like, ah.
Oh, we should tell everyone it's the National Association of Theater Owners too. It's
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They have been amazing.
No strategic arms talks these days. Yeah.
But it is, it's a lot of money, and we're all hoping. But I have to say, you guys probably got the same thing. So after you get it all in there and you think you're okay, and it's like, okay, you've submitted it. And also, by the way, too bad. If you think later that you would have done something different, no way can you go back and do it. And if they decide that you did one thing wrong, they could say you're disqualified. Yeah. So we're all sitting on pins and needles. But about 3 days ago, I got this email, and I'm sure you did too, that said from the SBA, thank you for your interest in applying for an SBOG grant. And I was like, oh my God, I already applied for it. What are you telling me? So then I went back on the website, and yes, my application has been submitted, but no shortage of heart attacks along the way.
No, I think, I am extremely fortunate that I personally did not have to work on that application. Ivy spent the person hours making that work, but rarely has a government body outside of the IRS caused so much stress and panic for so many business owners than as far as I can tell this process has caused.
But we are certainly eternally grateful. I mean, just as an example too, Sean, besides the notarized letter thing, we're all going through the form, and then there's the question that I'm sure we all had the same reaction to: how many employees do you have? When? When?
Now?
I'm not even technically an employee right now, for God's sakes,
Yeah, it used to be 65. Now it's 9. I mean, which number do you want me to pick?
So you've been doing some fixing up in there, Ann. Are you allowed to tell us about it?
Yeah. Well, we took advantage of the closure. Of course, the first month everybody was like, gee, do you think we'll be open by Memorial Day? And then all your dreams are,
When are we showing Tenet?
Yeah,
we're all opening for Tenet. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so we've taken advantage of that. And again, the benefit of being privately owned is that the theater really exists because the owners want it to exist. It has never made a ton of money, and it's only because they own the building really that they're able to put a lot back into it. And so it's kind of like Shawshank, get busy living or get busy dying. Are you going to let these businesses wind down, or are you going to try and invest in the future? And thankfully for my own behind, they've chosen that. So we're sprucing up the lobby. We're installing 4K laser in our big house. We are, but the biggest thing is we're going to be going from a 5-screen theater down to a 3-screen plus our micro cinema. And basically, the second floor of that building, where we had built 2 cinemas in the 90s, was originally a ballroom. And we're bringing that ballroom back. It's being fully renovated. It's going to have a stage so you can have, more intimate performances or weddings or banquets. We're taking advantage of our full liquor license as well. So that will premiere at some point in the fall. And that's a humongous project. So it's everything is covered in a fine layer of dust, but it's basically hedging our bets and saying, let's be a little bit more diverse in the things we can offer. And also, I think that, the strength of all 3 of these theaters is that they respond to their communities, that they have the ability to talk to their customers and adapt. And for us, it's kind of like we're at an advantage, I think, all three of us, over a chain theater, because you can respond to those. And for us, that's kind of we feel like that was a needed thing in our neighborhood, and make happen. And it'll still be available for they can still screen films in there and so forth. But we're trying a little bit more. Again, that's why we've been able to do this for 100 plus years, is rolling with it. And we were able to roll with COVID. And I mean, there's a lot of places that it didn't, and a lot of people who, their dreams were crushed. So we're very.
Yeah, I was going to say the two places you could see a movie in focus in downtown Boston have closed on us. So
I know.
Sort of like that was my worst nightmare during all this, was to come back and have nothing but AMCs.
Yeah.
I really hope, that like some kind of a leadership tactic that they'll be able to do something there. But, because to see, they're a big chain, but to see a quality theater in a town that they lacks them downtown, as you say, to disappear like that would be a pity. And to see, someone slap an AMC sign on there would be an insult to injury,
Absolutely. So I wonder if we can get into a little mechanics of now, like this gradual phased reopening with restrictions and everything. How are we going to make money going forward with this?
We're hoping you have the answer to that question.
Yeah, Sean, bring it on. What do you got?
That's why I asked you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we can until it goes back to just about normal. You can wear masks indoors, and that's fine. But if you can't have capacity, you can't sell food or some combination of that, food and beverage, then you're never able to operate. And the hope is the creek doesn't rise anymore. And like they're saying, Broadway's going to reopen. Well, okay, if Broadway can reopen and the TD Garden's announcing shows, then maybe there's some hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the phased reopening isn't really a real reopening until we're back to relatively normal capacity. I mean, the Brattle's 225 seats normally, and we're looking at, we can't even go to a 50% capacity with 6-foot distancing between people. So, it's 47 seats maximum or something like that within the space. So, I mean, of course, the probably not so secret truth about the Brattle, if not some of our other theaters, is that 50 seats on is a decent crowd sometimes for certain films. So, I mean, it's like 100 seats, that's like kind of where we aim for on average, is to have 100 seats per show or something like that. So but you're right. But Ian's totally on the ball. I mean, until we can fully sell concessions, until we can fully seat the theater, it's just not going to be, it's still going to be very difficult. And we're still going to be relying on community support and government support. Hopefully that'll get us to that November, next March. I don't know, we'll see where we're at. But Massachusetts seems like a good place for us to be right now, at least in terms of numbers.
And I learned, I think in the last NATO call, that Rhode Island just changed their social distance requirements to 3 feet from 6. So, I wrote to our regional NATO guy to say, hey, like, what's happening here? And he said, not yet. But, everybody's making it up as they go along. So hopefully that will change soon. But yeah, what we're doing initially is we're showing films in our big house at 15% capacity, and we'll continue to do private rentals in the theaters upstairs, because they're certainly more lucrative on a per event basis than selling tickets will be.
Yeah, and we because we're under renovation at Somerville, we couldn't reopen right now anyhow. But at the Capitol in Arlington, which we also operate, private rentals have been really terrific, and that's kept a couple of staff members on. But getting to the point, we have dedicated managers who've been with us for years. It's a family to a degree, if you're not blood, and some of them have gotten better jobs, other jobs, and some of them dying to get back. And that, to me, the customers are the people that you want to take care of your people as well. And it's so unnerving to people saying, "Well, what's happening?" and you don't have an answer for them.
So I guess we'll wrap up. I wonder if there's anything you've learned from all this nightmare. What good has come out of this that you're going to be moving forward with the theaters as we go into the new normal?
I mean, for us, it was just a renewed sense of connection with our community and a real, we feel like a real refreshed mandate to keep doing the Brattle thing. And I mean, we the support last year, our just donation support last year from individuals was 3 times what it normally is, 3 or 4 times what it normally is. So, I mean, that just shows the level of support, and it in a way that we don't always feel that tangibly, So I think that refreshed mandate for doing art house cinema and repertory cinema is really what we're going to take forward.
Yeah, I think both of us as being nonprofits, Ned, is like we are very mission driven, and we continue to fulfill that mission. And it became more and more apparent that is what we do and will continue to do. The community piece, that's an interesting number about donations. I'd say the same thing for us. We've received probably at least 3 times the donations that we would typically get. And we expected those to kind of taper off as this went on, but they didn't. Like people kept sending donations. The same people would send them. One woman sends me a check, or sends us a check every month that says, this is what I would have spent on movies this month. I mean, and what you realize is, I have always kind of thought this, but you really sensed it in the last year. And I'm sure it's the same for you. It's like, it's a building, we have a building, but it really is the community. And we still showed the films, we still had the participation, we still had everything. And it really speaks to the fact that it's the community that's driving everything, and that it is there, whether there's a building open or not, it's not going away yet. I mean, I think if it went on for that much longer, I mean, that was what was really hairy. I think, when you think back, like in probably even November, I don't remember when the vaccine came out, but I was putting our budget together. Our fiscal year is October 31. And I was putting together our budget last September, and I was really looking at, all right, how many months of cash do we have? Assuming that this could go on for a long time, because we didn't know how long it would go on.
Yeah, it was a dark year. I know I'm speaking for probably everybody who's watching, but I just want to thank you guys for sticking it out, because I mean, if it wasn't already obvious how much what you do enriched my life, it's basically my entire social calendar is your movie theaters. So yeah, I don't know. Is there any other messages you want to send to anybody before we sign off?
Just we're grateful that I can't speak for you folks, but I'm glad you're all still here. Sean, you as well. And we're here. We're, like you say, we're part of these communities, and it's my life's work, and I'm sure yours too, that we remain part of these communities. So everybody who's worried about us, continue to support places when they're not open, when they are open. But we're all going to be there, God willing, and the creek don't rise. So, take heart and see a dang movie.
And let's hear it for IFFB.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the second year in a row that they've pulled off this virtual festival, and they're still getting the talent, they're still getting the films, they're still doing it. And it's like, I think one of the things I could take away from this is that The people involved in this business, our staff, your staff, our people are incredibly creative and committed, and they just want to do the right thing. Our staff have been furloughed, they've taken pay cuts, and everybody just keeps working to get things back to where we need them to be. It really is a labor of love, and that really shows.
So on behalf of the festival, I really want to thank all of you guys. This is obviously, it's been a weird year for us as well. It feels a little bit more disconnected, and we just miss being in those places with you guys. And it's truly our hope that we can be around next year together where we belong. But I really want to thank all of you for taking the time, especially Ian. I know that you are technically furloughed, so thank you for coming in on your off time. And Kathy, I know that you were trying to open up the Coolidge on the 13th, and I know that I know from personal experience how hard it is to get ticket sales going sometimes. So I want to thank you for taking the time too. And Ned, thanks as always. Thanks for having us on your podcast. Thanks to all of you for being part of this, and of course, Sean, thank you too. And I want to thank everybody for watching this. I want to remind you all to go to Coolidge.org, brattlefilm.org, and somervilletheater.com, and find out what you can do to help support these theaters so that when they do open, they can stay open. And I mean, as I said in the opening, these theaters have been the heart of the Boston film scene literally for decades. So I think if we all stick together, hopefully we can make that happen for decades to come. So thanks to all of you, and we look forward to seeing you all at the movies.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you,
Here's
Brian.
to you and Nancy and a great IFFB this year.
Here.
Everyone take care.